Welcome to We Don't Have Cookies with your host, Jason Marshall.
Hey everybody, thanks for downloading the show. Last week I said that I would be talking to former celebrity Big Brother house guest and White House Director of Communications Anthony Scaramucci. There's been a slight change of plans. He will be on next week because this week I'm going to be talking to a man that I've been trying to get on the show for over a year now. He's a UFC Hall of Famer, the only Triple Crown champion in UFC history, a pro wrestler, and my friend, Dan the Beast Severn. How you doing, Dan?
Top of the morning at you, Jason. I'm doing fantastic. Just another crazy day in life. And it has it been that long that you've been trying to get a hold of me?
Yeah. That's funny because
wow.
I know. I didn't realize it till I looked it up yesterday. I was trying to find out when the last time you were on, and it's been just over a year. It's hard to believe.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, this past year has flew by for me. Especially like the last 3-4 months have been very, very busy for me. Things have piled up on me so much that I keep just responding to people. Sorry that so slow getting back to you, but I'm playing a wicked game of catch up.
Well, you are a very busy man. You do a lot of different things. You do MMA, you do pro wrestling, you're a trainer, you've written a book, you've acted in a movie. But have you ever considered bagging groceries part-time?
I actually have. I've done that too.
Really?
Much earlier in my life. Combination of, I worked at a fruit market. So, you know, working the cash register, bagging people's fruit and vegetables. Maybe down the road I'll be that Walmart greeter or something like that.
Do you think
Never know.
Do you think anybody out there still has one of those bags that you bagged for them as a souvenir?
No, because I was basically, again, that was in, I think, 7th grade. I was doing that at that point. Yeah, 7th grade.
And you never signed any of them or put your autograph on any of those bags?
No, I was just a kid just making his way. Just starting, I'll just say I was that flower just starting to bud. I was just starting my folk style wrestling career.
Do you think that would be a good idea for anybody who may be in 7th grade listening to this right now to just autograph anything you do? If you're making pizzas, autograph the pizza box. You never know if you could be famous one day.
I don't know. I mean, because you gotta look at it two different ways. If you want your signature to be more valuable, it should be harder to come by.
Very good point.
So it's kind of like there's certain people that you can't get autographs from anymore. So whatever is in circulation is it. Now it drives things on up.
That's a good way to look at it. I really didn't think about that.
Well, you know, that's why the Beast has such an unusual perspective sometimes. I can look at things at multi different facets.
Well, you were a pioneer of mixed martial arts back in the day when a judo guy would face a sumo guy or a kickboxer, somebody with a completely different style. I'd say you probably have faced just about every variety of fighter that there is, which makes me wonder, have you ever boxed a kangaroo?
I've been in Australia. I've seen kangaroos out in the wild. I've seen some rather funny clips on YouTube of that of people having their own bad encounters with the kangaroos. No, I have not, nor do I think I would want to attempt it because kangaroos have very, very powerful feet on them.
Yeah, I have seen some.
I should say that the feet and legs.
Very true. Very true. I saw some at a zoo. We could walk right up to them if we wanted. You were supposed to stay on this path, but I thought, man, if one of these guys ever just lost it and decided to take it out on one of the people walking around in here, we would be pretty screwed.
Yes, I totally would agree with you there, Jason.
Well, a few years ago, you agreed to be my bailiff on the podcast Comedic Courtroom episodes called Martial Law. About a year or two ago, Ken Shamrock was on the show, and during his interview, I asked...
Oh, well, lock him up. Oh, I'm sorry. I got a little premature right there. Okay.
I asked Ken during his interview if he would be willing to face you on an episode of Martial Law to hash out your differences, he agreed, but he hasn't been on the show since, even though he's asked to come on a few months back, but he never responded to my reply. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'll just reiterate the fact that I was just down in Australia just within the last 3 months here, where I did do a match with Ken Shamrock.
Really?
Yes. And this really would have been Ken and I's really third time being involved in a match together. I should say when it comes to mixed martial arts. He won the first one, I won the second one, so the rubber match never did take place. I've had different promoters try to bring us together, but it all depends on what they're looking for. So like this promoter contacts me, he says, would you entertain the idea of doing a match with Ken Shamrock? And I said, sure. All depending on what you're looking for the outcome. And when he told me, I said, well, I basically responded back to him, thanks, but no thanks.
Oh.
Then he came back and he offered me twice as much money.
Well, that'll help.
And I responded right back to him. I go, it's not about the money.
Oh.
It's about the principle. He and I are about as opposite as the yin-yang symbol. And,
that's very true, by the way.
Again, that's why I use the analogy. I said, he's all the dark side and I'm all the white side. I said, I can live with my conscience. People may or may not like me, but I says, at least I'm truthful about things. I mean, and Ken is not. But I told him, I says, but I am willing to do some type of a double count out, time lapse type of a match, whatever. If that would be a consideration, I would think about it then. And basically, a couple of days later, I got a phone call, and that was basically the terms that I got agreed to. Now, with that said, though, Jason, I started training that day. I sensed that we were going to come to some type of agreement. I had started training previously, and I was preparing for a shoot.
Oh.
Hoping that a professional wrestling match was going to break out.
Well, that's
I mean, literally, some of you, a lot of your listeners may not understand what I'm talking about, but that's too bad for them. But no, I was. I mean, I was probably the leanest I've been in a long time. Cardiovascular was fantastic. I was putting in a minimum of 3 workouts a day.
So, real quick, like you said, some of the listeners may not know what you're referring to. What you mean is you were preparing to have a real fight, even though you were scheduled for a wrestling match. And in the wrestling world, a shoot means things just get really real.
Yeah, well, shoot just means it's the real deal. I mean, anyone that refers to like Ultimate Fighting Championships and Bellator, those are shoot matches. Those are the real deal. Are we breaking kayfabe here right now? Well, some would say we are, but at the same token, Vince McMahon himself broke kayfabe back in the in the 80s, he broke kayfabe, or at the end of the 80s, or by the very first of the 90s, he broke kayfabe just because he did not want to fall underneath the statues of all the different state athletic commissions, of all the licensing that he had to do for all of these of his athletes on the roster.
So you started training for a real fight with Ken?
Yeah.
And how did everything go when you got to Australia?
I prepared for the worst, hoping for the best. The match went well. Actually, it went a lot better than what I figured it would have ever gone.
Good.
And that's why I'll just say that by spending 10 days around somebody, you cannot help but interact at different times. And I think the more and more the interaction that we had with each other, the better that it was. I mean, he has a better understanding of where I come from. I have a better understanding from where he comes from. Are we going to be buddy-buddy? Oh, I doubt that, because, again, we're as opposite as the yin-yang symbol still to this day.
Yeah,
but we understand where our perspectives are. I'm okay with the way I lead my life.
You have one of the manliest mustaches in all of manly mustache history. Was that surgically implanted, or is that all natural?
Well, it just kind of came about comedically. that has come up, and I should really do a repost on that because it was several years back. Lots of people talk to me about my mustache. Question like, well, how long have you had your mustache like this? So literally, I did a post, and what I did was my one son, David, his firstborn, Maddox. I says, can I use your son as a model? I just want to take a baby picture, but I want to put a mustache on him, which I did. And basically, it was the question has been asked many, many times over the years as to how long I have had a mustache. This should answer the question because it shows it as a baby that's not even 1 year old. It has a big old mustache on. So I had more people just thought that was so comical. But a lot of people don't realize that Dan Severn does have a sense of humor as well.
Yes, you do. That's one reason I love having you on this show. I have a question for you.
I feel bad that it has taken so long, so I do apologize for that.
I think the reason it hasn't felt so long for me and you is because we've interacted outside the show. So it really, even when I said that at the beginning of the show, it didn't feel that long. I actually had to look that up to realize it.
Yeah, because it surprised me.
My neighbor has a giant hole in his yard where an old house was. The county made him tear it down, but he never filled in the hole from the cellar. What do you think he should do? Put some kind of liner around the hole and turn it into a roadside swimming pool, or turn it into a realistic scale model of the Grand Canyon?
Well, I think it's going to be a little bit small for a swimming pool. I think it will still be small for item number 2 there, but I would just opt for just fill it back in.
Okay.
And as a side little tidbit here, yours truly here has dug the hole for a few different outhouses in my day, and going to my grandparents' home when I was young, they had an outhouse.
Huh.
The only running water they had in their home was in the mudroom. And they had a hand pump where they would get their water and they would be heating on the gas, not the gas, but the wood stove.
Wow.
So you're looking at all natural fuels right there. It's just a wood fire. They had a pot-belly stove. And there was always my grandfather always had a pot of coffee sit on top of it.
I'm drinking a cup of coffee right now. Sounds like a man after my own heart right there.
Yeah, well, I'm doing a little more of a sissy type of form of coffee right there. I have to have, I like iced coffee for whatever reason, but I dilute mine way down with lots of French vanilla and sweeteners. My kids love my coffee.
I was going to say, you should come over to my house sometime. I have all kinds of stuff for coffee in my kitchen. I got about any kind of syrup or sweetener or anything you could ever ask for.
Well, you sound like my kind of coffee drinker then.
I like to do a thing on the show called a question from my last guest. What I do is I get a question from my last guest to ask my next guest without my last guest knowing who my next guest is going to be. The question can be silly or serious. Dan, are you ready for a question from my last guest?
It's good that I'm sitting down, but lay it on me there, Jason.
How do you talk yourself out of being hard on yourself? How do you cheer yourself up?
How do I talk myself out of being hard on myself? How do I cheer myself on up? Well, I do keep a couple clips that are for comical purpose. I do enjoy comedy. I don't think enough people laugh, especially at themselves and at some of their old mistakes that they have made. So I do have a little, I'll just say a little Dropbox that I have on my computer where I just have just some nice little comical type of things, but then I also have motivational type of things there as well, so that if I'm having that dismal day where I cannot focus, I've got a couple of great little motivational type of things that I tap into to. It's like, okay, let's get our head out of our proverbial rear end and let's move ahead here now. So I don't know if I answered quite your question as well as you're looking for, but I tend to go off into a few different tangents.
No, I think that's a good answer.
Everybody is responsible really for their own happiness, and they're really responsible for their own happenings, whether that's good, bad, or different. A lot of people like to blame others, unless somebody ran you over it with their car or something like that. But at the same token, were you paying attention when you were walking out in the street? Again, let me go off into one more tangent here as a Dan Severn here right now. People do walk right out in the street now.
Yeah, they do.
Because they look at pedestrian has right of way. I actually have done this before. I roll my window down. I go, at what point would you like to know that you're right? While you're still walking across, or while you got about a 3,000-pound vehicle sitting on your chest going, I'm bad, you were right, you have the right of way. I look at it this way. I look at the common sense. I slowly start moving out. I don't trust people as they're driving down the road because that's what accidents are all about. I don't want to hear that. Well, I thought they were going. No. I rather err on the side of safety every time.
Well, as most listeners know, and we talked about a little earlier, I'm a big wrestling fan. I was excited to see you in action at MLW's Battle Riot. I heard some stories from behind the scenes that you were great to work with, and also heard that you were hanging out and training with UFC fighter and MLW wrestler Filthy Tom Lawler. I'd love to have him on the show sometime if you put in a good word for me, but what was it like to work with that guy?
Well, the funny part about doing a match with Filthy Tom Lawler is that, in case some of your listeners don't know who he is, again, I'm trying to think what kind of time frame, how many years back this would have been that he did a Dan Severn impersonation.
Oh, really?
Basically, at a UFC weigh-ins, he came out dressed as me. He had a mustache, he had the gray shirt, he had black trunks on, and then he basically did like a roar type pose, and then he double-legged even one of his partners and stuff like that. And this was all during an actual weigh-ins.
Wow. And
Joe Rogan just went crazy all over that whole skit right there. And that, because he was basically he was a shooter, a real competitor, and was transitioning into the professional wrestling ranks.
Nice.
And we even have had a chance to wrestle each other, and it's kind of like it was really kind of a comical, fun match to be involved with, because first off, they introduced me with all my music and stuff like that, and Tom Lawler went out. And then they introduced me and with all the music and stuff like that, and then I came out. So it was just kind of a fun, interesting night, and we're, basically we were like mirroring each other exactly as to do, or I should say he was mirroring me.
I've heard him on other podcasts. He seems like he's got a really good sense of humor and a pretty good guy.
Yeah, no, I got along really great with him.
You were an NWA champion for a long time. Have you been contacted to wrestle for them now that they're owned by Billy Corgan from the Smashing Pumpkins?
No, I would like to get in contact with them to see what does it take to get one of their more revered, recent being within, let's say, the last decade or two. Maybe the guy that actually brought them back from extinction, because I think at the time that they put the strap on me, there was only 3 promoters left in the world that had anything to do with the NWA. And I got them quite a bit of exposure through pay-per-view and television because of having the NWA belt.
You'd definitely be a good fit with their current product, that's for sure.
Well, see, I have not seen the current product really whatsoever, Jason. All I know about it is what I've heard, and I've heard a lot of good things.
Well, before you go, I want to play a game with you if you're up for it.
Well, let's see what you got here, Jason.
All right. The game is called You or Unicorn. I'm going to read 5 statements. If you think that the statement is about you, say you. If you think the statement's about a unicorn, say unicorn. If you get all 5 right in 30 seconds, you win a prize. Are you ready to play You or Unicorn?
5 questions, 30 seconds. You, if it's or me, and then unicorn if it's not me.
That's right.
Okay, I think I got it.
All right, your time starts now. Has won more MMA fights than anyone in history.
You.
Farts rainbows.
Unicorn.
Beat Ken Shamrock's ass.
You.
Isn't real.
You.
Is talking to me right now.
You said, wait, no. You said, isn't real. Unicorn, yeah. Sorry.
Is talking to me right now.
You.
All right, Dan, you got all 5 right in 30 seconds. I'll be mailing you a prize.
Okay. The one I had to come back and correct myself. I tried to think, well, I was hoping there was going to be some questions that I might sit there and ponder for very much on too, because I didn't want to hear the old do. Yeah, I didn't want to hear that music in the background. So
we have the same birthday. I don't know if you know that, but June 9th, I'd love to have you back on the show for my birthday episode in 2020.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Let's line that up.
Sounds great. Is there anything you'd like to promote before you go?
My website is dansevern.com. It's being revamped. You can see it, but you can see a number of things about it. But if they're looking to try to order anything, they won't be able to order anything. But that's no big deal. But at least it shows Facebook pages and other social media outlets, and they can just read other articles about me. But I've got a new website that's being revamped, and once that's ready, it will replace the existing one.
All right, Dan. Well, I want to thank you for, real quick, one last question. You got all your toes, right?
All my toes?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, me too.
I'm not suffering from any diabetic neuropathy, and we're not starting the whittling process yet. No.
Okay. Good. I got all mine too. All right, Dan, thanks for being on the show, and I hope we can do it again.
Want to contact the show? Send an email to jason@wedon'thavecookies.com or call 929-266-9342 and leave a voicemail.
I'm Anthony Scaramucci. I'm going to be on the show next week, barring any technical difficulties, and you know how that goes.
That's right. The former White House Communications Director Anthony Scaramucci will be here next week. You heard it from the man himself, and I want to apologize to anybody who was expecting to hear him this week, but I've been really wanting to talk to Dan on the show for a long time. But joining me right now, as always, is the podcast's official weatherman, Frankie MacDonald. Frankie, what will the weather be like this week starting on Monday?
Yes, it's going to be a whole lot of rain. New York City and all across the eastern seaboard of the United States. It's going to bring a snowstorm later on this week in Wisconsin and those places. It's going to bring a whole lot of rain in New Jersey, and it's going to be in Maryland and Virginia and all the way down Florida, parts of Texas and Mexico. They're going to bring lots of snow in the interior eastern United States. I think it's a strong Bermuda high is located in the Atlantic Ocean.
What about the weather for Ohio and California?
That means that over in California, that's going to bring more fires in California. Santa Ana winds might be coming back because polar vortex may trigger Santa Ana winds. That's going to trigger more fires in California.
Is there anything people can do to be prepared for the fires in California?
Don't go near the fires. Make sure you have a lot of water ready to put out the fires. Have your helicopters ready. Have your water bags ready with helicopters to put out the fires.
All right, Frankie. And what's the weather going to be like internationally?
Tropical cyclones currently hit and then aiming it towards Madagascar starting on Tuesday. It's a slow-moving tropical cyclone aiming it towards Madagascar in Africa.
And is there any update on the typhoon that was going to hit in the Philippines?
Did a lot of damage, and they had some fatalities reported, and it did lots of damage in Philippines.
Is there anything else you'd like to talk about before you go?
My book is Be Prepared to Frank Delgado Life, Weather, and Everything. It's written by Sarah Sollers. You can get a copy of my book on Amazon.
All right, Frankie. Well, it was great talking to you this week. I look forward to having you back next week.
Yes, I'm Frankie MacDonald. You are listening to We Don't Have Cookies radio show.
Have a great day, Frankie.
Have a great day. Bye for now.
As always, support Frankie by buying his stuff on Amazon. Be a great gift for somebody, including myself. I just added his stuff to my Amazon wish list, which you can see by clicking the link in the Get Involved section of the website, WeDon'tHaveCookies.com. Speaking of the website, if you're going to go to Amazon, please go to my website, scroll to the bottom of the page, and click that Amazon banner at the bottom. It'll take you straight to Amazon.com. The prices will stay the same. I won't see any of your personal information, but I will get a small percentage of what you spend. So keep that in mind if you do any holiday shopping on there. It'd mean a lot to me. I mentioned on the last episode that my phone broke. I always knew I relied on it a lot. We all do, but man, it was really hard being without it. The worst part was when I got the replacement, that one was broke too. So I had to wait to get a second replacement. I just got the new one up and running not long ago. I feel much better now. It was driving me nuts. I pulled the most hilarious prank on my wife last week. My kid had a band concert at school. My wife left early to hang out with the other moms before the show, and I was going to meet up with her at the school when the concert started. While I was getting ready, I sent her a text and told her that I couldn't wait for her to see the shirt I was wearing to the concert and that she was going to be so embarrassed. Typically, my wife hates that kind of stuff. She doesn't care for my sense of humor, so I had no idea how she was going to react. I knew she would either tell her friends and go along with it, or she would keep it to herself and be anxious until she saw me. She gets the text message, she tells her friends, and she tells them what I sent. I get to the school. I have my coat zipped all the way up. I see my wife and her friends. They all want to know what the shirt is. I unzip my coat, and it's a white shirt. Can you believe it? I wore white after Labor Day. They were so embarrassed, they moved to another aisle. The rest of the auditorium just erupted in laughter. They ended up canceling my kid's concert, brought me up on stage and talked to me for about an hour about my shirt and the prank. It was really amazing. I'm so glad I did that. And actually, my wife and her friends were very let down that I wasn't wearing something crazy, which... that's what made it funny to me, all this build-up just to reveal that I'm wearing white after Labor Day, which used to be a thing here in the U.S. about 100 years ago. No one cares now. As a matter of fact, one of her friends was wearing a white sweater, so hopefully I didn't make her feel self-conscious. But my wife was watching the movie Home Alone last week. I told her that I never watched it, and she was really shocked. Way more shocked than me wearing white after Labor Day. So I watched that movie with her. It was a lot different than I expected it to be. It wasn't bad, but it was so different than the movie I always thought it was that it was, I don't know. I always had the premise down, but in my head, I just assumed that he was a really good, wholesome kid from a regular family. And I watched the movie and he's just some rich brat. and I always thought that famous picture of him yelling with his hands on his cheeks was because he was scared, but it was from putting on aftershave. So, like I said, it was a good movie, but it was way different than what I always pictured. And I probably would have liked it better if I saw it as a kid. Also just saw that one with the kid who was told he was going to shoot his eye out if he got a BB gun for Christmas. I have no idea what it's called. It's the one where his dad gets a lamp that looks like a leg from his job for Christmas. I just watched that one a few years ago. Everyone seems to love that movie. I guess it's a big classic. For whatever reason, I don't watch many movies, especially ones people think are classics like Scarface, Schindler's List, stuff like that. I have a ton on my Netflix list, but never watch them. Maybe someday. But right now, it is time for this week's Strange Days. If you're listening to this on the day it comes out, Monday, December 9th, is Christmas Card Day. Fun fact, frequent guest comedian Karen Rontowski used to have her own line of greeting cards at Target. Tuesday is Dewey Decimal System Day. Sure, libraries around the world are going to be packed that day. Wednesday is Noodle Ring Day, so make some SpaghettiOs for dinner that night, I guess. And Thursday is Gingerbread House Day. That sounds like fun. Friday is official Lost and Found Day, so go to a store, lose something, go back later that day and see if they found it. Saturday is Monkey Day. If you live somewhere warm, that'd be a good day to visit the zoo. If you live somewhere cold, watch Planet of the Apes, I guess. And finally, Sunday, there is nothing. Speaking of nothing, there's nothing else I want to talk about on this episode. If you had fun, please tell your friends and spread the word. Quite a few of you are doing that, and I really appreciate it. That's it for me this week. I'll talk to you next Monday.
Thanks for listening. Tell your friends about the show and leave a review. See you next time.
Can I use your son as a model?